Good afternoon, Cayman. I did promise that I would be back on in a little while to discuss OfReg. And so here I am. OfReg, the regulatory authority of the Cayman Islands, a section of the government, has a public consultation paper going on, and it was extended until tomorrow for input. I am a little baffled why they extended it to the 22nd, which is a Thursday, and it's not the end of the week, but I guess that gives them time to get it all prepared over the weekend or whatever they're planning to do. I don't know if that means they're going to try to get it before cabinet, or they're going to try to get it in the next sitting of the parliament, whenever that is. But it is a very necessary consultation paper, and I did say I was going to do a video on it some time ago. I touched on it briefly, but I think it's time that I do a little bit in depth, excuse me, a little bit in depth explanation. And so this is regulation that I think everybody in the entire Cayman Islands, everyone in the entire Cayman Islands have been crying out for. Even people that aren't in the Cayman Islands but connected to the Cayman Islands when it comes to any utilities or telecommunications or anything like that. And so Mr. Miles, who heads up, as far as I can remember, and I checked a few weeks ago, haven't checked today, but Mr. Miles, who's heading up the regulatory body, congratulations to you and your department for finally bringing this on board. I know many people are very concerned about not only technology, but utilities in terms of the bodies that provide electricity and water and sewage and those sorts of utilities, but more so too are phone and internet services. So I just want to read a bit of what OfReg has been doing, the regulations. Now the regulations that they're proposing is 67 pages long, so I don't have time to read all that and break that down for everyone, but I will touch on the necessary areas that I think that people, the working class people, really need to know. And I am so glad that Cayman is moving in this direction. Very instrumental part of telecommunications and utilities structure, and for us to be up to standard with the rest of the free world, Western world. And so one of the questions in the consultation is, what happens if my internet goes down for a long time? And so, you know, they've made some proposals on what can happen. And so the other question, another point that they have in the regulations, proposed regulations, is clear information before you choose a service. And so the new legislation is proposing to provide that the companies that are going to offer these services will provide clear and understandable information, not write little fine print writing that most people cannot understand because it's mostly legal jargon or worded in a specific way to kind of trip you up and say, oh yeah, well, you signed to this, so you're obligated to it. The regulations are proposing that is eliminated and clear information is provided to you, the potential customer or the customer. Fair, transparent, and predictable agreements. They are proposing that long-term lock-ins can be frustrating. So long-term lock-ins is when some of these customers hold you to what is typically known as a contract. So they lock you in and say, oh, well, you can get it at this price for 12 months. And if you break the contract within 12 months, well, you're going to have to go be charged for regular or a higher rate or whatever. So the regulatory authority, fondly known as OfReg, I can't remember what the new name for it is, but they're proposing in the draft regulations a fair, transparent, and predictable agreement. So you as a customer will understand exactly what you are getting yourself into from the get-go, from the very beginning. It won't be no round and roundabout language. Customer services should explain everything to you when you are getting ready to sign up for services with them. And the new legislation is built upon 8 fundamental pillars. So what they're saying is the new draft legislation proposes that standard contracts should generally, meaning typically on average, be limited to 12 months unless you actively, that means you make the deliberate choice in your mind to choose a longer term if they offer a longer term, right? And that's standard. Most of these companies, I know in the UK, in the US, and Canada, for example, and I believe too in Jamaica, do offer a standard term limit is 12 months for contracts. But the contracts must be clear. If you're signing a contract to pay for a phone for 12 months, you must understand exactly what that means and what happens if you do not commit to that contract for 12 months. What happens if you want to break it, if you want to move to another carrier, that sort of thing. And clear channels and timelines when issues arise for your internet services. When you have an issue with your service, you deserve a timely response. The draft regulation proposed replacing voluntary targets with strict mandatory timelines. So they're proposing to give these internet providers strict mandatory timelines in order to let customers know what's going on and what they're doing with these channels. Providers would need to acknowledge your complaint if you have complaints about these providers within 5 business days and provide a proposed resolution within 30 days. Our population is still small enough that I think 30 days is really too long for these providers to have to propose a resolution. So it's basically saying when you file a complaint with these companies, utilities or telecommunications, internet, cable, phone services, they're supposed to acknowledge your complaint within 5 business days. This is the proposed regulations from OfReg. And within 30 days after they acknowledge your complaint, they propose a resolution, solution, an answer to the problem within 30 days. That doesn't say whether it's 30 business days or 30 calendar days, but I think 15 would be good because we are very small, But 30 days is an average legally, a standard time frame. The draft also requires that complaint channels be free to access. That means you have various ways of having your complaints be sent in to these companies, right? Including a free to call number, that's toll-free number from local networks. So it's proposing that these local companies provide a toll-free number, free to access. So it can also be, they have emails, they have a complaints form on their websites if they have their websites. Well, every company has a website these days. And they have toll-free, free to call means toll-free numbers. I also propose they have WhatsApp numbers for people because most people, even with toll-free, Some people would prefer to use WhatsApp. So I'm proposing in this technological age, especially in our region of the world where WhatsApp is the way to communicate, that these companies and businesses and government departments and organizations all try to have a WhatsApp number come online. The draft, okay. We want to know if these timelines meet your expectations. I think those timelines are reasonable, even though I would like to say 15 days instead of 30 days, but you know, we're not gonna push the issue. I think that's fair that OfReg is coming up with that. Okay, I run a small business. Do these protections applies to me? So the draft regulations propose expanding the definition of consumer to explicitly include. So when they're using the word consumer in the draft regulations, it's also going to mean micro businesses, that's the little small businesses, and then small businesses and not-for-profit entities. This would grant them the same statutory protections, the same lawful protections as residential users regarding contracts and billing. I think that is fair, because micro and small and most nonprofit entities, because we know they're here milking Cayman, but most micro companies and small companies, especially that are owned by Caymanians on the real, cannot fight any of these companies or organizations, and they generally get ignored as the consumers, personal consumers do. Residential consumers and personal consumers get ignored. Customers get ignored. It's a fact. These companies really, truly, majority, I can't really say, I won't call any company, but I do know many of the telecommunication phone companies and internet providers, cable companies, they have a history of ignoring communications, and they market ways that you can communicate with them and you hear nothing back. So OfReg is proposing to set a standard, a set guideline of what they have to adhere to, and if they don't, then of course you file complaints with OfReg. I don't know if it makes any sense to file further complaints with the companies, because that's one of the issues now, that they don't respond. Maybe they'll respond after this new regulation goes into effect and they know that they can be penalized, you know, and that generally means fining them and putting them, you know, in a certain, I don't want to get too technical with all that to complicate this little small thing that I'm trying to do. And so transparent guidelines for quality service and problem notification. So they're proposing, you know, that these companies, I'm going to go on the regulations here that they're proposing and try to break it down just a bit, try not to be online too long, and tell you what some of the things are that OfReg is proposing. Some of you people. So like I said, the regulations, the proposed regulation that is being proposed by Utility Regulation and Competition Office, URCO. So they haven't changed their name on social media, but they're now called URCO, URCO, Utility Regulation and Competition Office. That is aptly named. That is very, very aptly named. I must say that. And so some of the key points I am going to read. They've actually did this regulations very well in plain language. But many of you, I know working class people, average class people, English of non-speakers, English not being your first language, but you can speak some English. Many of you won't understand this anyway. So I just can't believe that they're finally doing this, to be honest with you guys. And I know many of you don't want to come online and listen to this, but you are always online doing videos complaining about these companies and their services and so forth. But now that OfReg has provided an opportunity for you to give feedback, even if you want to go on OfReg's page and just vent and rant and put your complaint there, do that. You don't even really have to know what they're doing here. They can monitor the pages. They have a Facebook page, Instagram page. I'm not sure if they have a TikTok page, and I'm not sure if they have a YouTube page, but I know they have Instagram and Facebook. You can jump on there and tell them your problems. And most likely it's already covered in these new regulations, so they can see more and more what the problems are. But you should know that these regulations are being prepared in order to better have these companies provide better services to us, the consumers. I think we need more competition when it comes to phone services, internet and cable. These services are through the roof. I don't know the economic costs of doing these businesses and providing these services, but there's two particular companies, that the primary companies that provide phone services on island, and they are based in the Caribbean. And so I don't understand how I mean, one service, one local service that's been here the very longest but has changed its name over a period of time. To me, their prices are a bit more competitive when it comes to phone services and internet, right? But they still offer these very, very expensive, I love the word very because it emphasizes strongly, expensive services. I mean, and then what they do, they will not give you notice of when they're changing plans. And if they do give you notice, the notice is at very last minute, at your doorstep minute, right? So OfReg's regulations are proposing to change all of that. If the services go off, they have to not charge you for outages. They have to notify the public of outages so everyone can know, not be online running like a blind man in the dark trying to figure out what outages are going on. I know there was an outage in Powell Smith Drive week before last, and half the residents were on the road asking each other if their utilities got cut off or whatever. Nobody knew. So these companies should have access to every phone number available in this country, in these islands, and send out mass text messages or mass, well, I wouldn't even say WhatsApp because not everyone has WhatsApp in the Cayman Islands that has a cell phone. But everybody has a text message facility. All phones are built in with that. And that is very, very prominent in the United States. Everybody uses text messages. And so these companies should be advising of these things. So the key policy areas that are being covered by OfReg would be requirements for clear and accurate information to be provided. They're wanting to set standards for complaint handling and dispute resolution. So how to handle complaints and how to sort out disputes when there are disputes from customers about their services. Fair contract terms, I mentioned that, including protections for device financing agreements. So when you finance a phone, the contract terms should be clear in language that you understand. I'm going to read on to see if that also means that the customer service representative setting you up for that contract should be trained to explain to you what you are getting into, because many customer service don't want to explain that. In the US, when you go and set up a service with T-Mobile or one of those phone companies or the electrical companies or any of the utilities, the representative, all of the phone calls are recorded. You can always call back and say, hey, I want you to listen to my call, and I asked, or it wasn't explained to me what I was getting into with this. That should be mandatory here with our services too, that all calls are recorded with all these companies when they speak to customers. And the customer service rep must explain what you are getting into. It shouldn't just be if you go in there in person, or they say, or you can do it online. Like T-Mobile, you can sign up for service online and they email you the contract and all that kinds of stuff. But by then they would have explained everything to you or summarized it so you can understand. That must be mandatory here too, and I believe that that is what they're trying to accomplish. Billing transparency and credit management processes. Billing transparency, let me tell you something. I don't know where they get these billing setups from, but some of the bills that I see coming out every month, most of you have no clue. Me, they have a little common sense and a little know-how and a little professional maneuvering. Some of the bills trip me up because of the way that they're set up. And you know, sometimes the law allows for that, but then OfReg is trying to undo that. So when you get your bill, it's very simple. You owe this much. This is the usage you have for this date. This is the date they read the meter. This is the day that you're supposed to pay your bill. And this is your account number. This is the day the invoice, you know, just standard stuff. Not things that by the time you read one side, you got to go over to the next side and read something else. And then, but you want to know exactly what you're getting into, you know. Service delivery time frames and fault reporting obligations. So they want to propose that service delivery time frames are given to you, so you as a customer is clear on what time frame to expect that your service is going to be provided, right? And fault reporting obligations, that the companies oblige themselves when faults are being reported to the company, and they oversee it and take care of it. Minimum service quality standards and automatic consumer remedies. Oh my Lord. And ERCO's restitution and enforcement powers, meaning what ERCO can do to handle any complaints, and also what their enforcement powers will be with the complaints. So I just want to say, background purposes, ERCO regulates the electricity, ICT, information, communication and technology, water, wastewater, that means sewage, and fuels sector in the Cayman Islands under the Utility Regulation and Competition Act 2024. That is what this department does. So the electricity, the information, communication and technology, that means internet, cable, phone companies and those providers, water, sewage, and fuels. And the principal functions of this department is to protect the short and long-term interest of consumers, customers, in relation to these services, utility services, to ensure that the utility services are satisfactory and efficient, and that charges, the cost of these services, are reasonable and reflect efficient cost. That is one of the primary concerns to us as customers, consumers. In addition, to establish and enforce quality of service standards, to investigate and resolve complaints from consumers and service providers. So to investigate complaints from us, the customers and the consumers, but also from the service providers if they have their complaints about us, right? And to regulate the terms and conditions of ICT services where the public interest, where it is in the public interest. We don't need to read why new regulations are needed. We all know why new regulations are needed, because we don't have a lot of regulations that should be in place in this present day, and that we do have is not modernized to meet the standards of the rest of the world and what is offered by these two companies in other countries. But also in order to make sure that the consumers are getting treated fairly and getting value for money, because these companies charge a lot of money. They're milking the Cayman Islands. In the States, it's a much, much larger jurisdiction. Canada, the UK, everywhere else is bigger than the Cayman Islands, right? In addition, there's competition there And I think we have room for additional businesses, companies to come in for competition. We have the population. But these companies behind the scene, they're not going to want that. So we don't need to know why regulations are needed. They're needed. I just said why. Like I said, the market has seen significant growth in device financial agreements. Anyway, I'm not going to read everything. I'm just trying to read the surface things of why they are putting these draft regulations together, right? And okay, so I'm just going to kind of read the titles. So overview of the draft regulations. Requirements for clear, accurate information before and during a contract, including service details, rates, that's the price you're going to pay, the terms, that means how long it is, and of course the disputes resolution options and quality standards. Accessible, fair, and efficient complaint handling. Oh my God, that is so needed. Including multiple channels, the different ways that you can file complaints. Time frames, record keeping, they must keep records, and escalation to ERCO. Fair, transparent, and balanced contract terms, including requirements on contract duration, cancellation rights, contract variation, bundle services. So if you get bundle services, all that should be explained to you. Also includes protection for device financing agreements. Billing, I just went over that. Service provision and fault repair. Service delivery time frames, 24/7 fault reporting, that is definitely needed. If you have a fault on your service, there should be round the clock ways to report this service outage or complaints. Repair standards, outage notifications, we just went over some of that. Okay. I would just like to see you guys get in touch. The roaming plan service providers must send warning notifications via SMS, like I said, text messages or equivalent, could be WhatsApp, could be emails, but the shortest way for them to get information to people is by text, SMS. Every single phone has a text facility. And it needs to be marketed that you people that own a cell phone, check your text messages, because you do not. I, that have come from the US a few years ago, know that text message is the primary method of communication, of getting information out, getting notifications out to people. Because every phone is equipped with text message the same way it is equipped with the ability to make and receive calls. WhatsApp is different because you have to download WhatsApp. It's not necessarily onto the phone. So here it's saying service providers must send warning notifications via SMS or equivalent when customers approach roaming plan allotment limits. They need to anyway, like I said, this is a long document. Roaming plans, they need to provide you with information about roaming plans and what happens if you're going to roam, and they should ask you, they should tell you what happens if you're going to roam and what to do with your phone. Billing, restitution. Like I said, the deadline for this is tomorrow at 5 p.m. I don't know why they did it on a Thursday at 5. And many of you are just lazy. You complain, you get on social media and you complain. But you will not take advantage of this, even though they have extended the period, the date, further and further. I think this is twice they've extended the deadline. So what you can do is, under anything that you see on OfReg's page, you can vent there. Just put it there. If you want to be lazy and don't want to email them and tell them what your thoughts are, or you can say yes, you agree with the regulations, or no, you don't agree with the regulations. If I were you, every single soul that has a phone should say yes. Yes, 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 across the board. That's what I would do. because the no won't cut it. These are very important regulations that the department is proposing. Okay, and it says within 12 months of these regulations effective date, information must be available in formats accessible to persons with disability. I am glad that they've done that, because I hear people calling on the radio shows, the talk shows that's on the radio, complaining about not being able to understand their bills. If they call, they can't get through to the companies. And some people are hearing impaired. Some people are visually impaired. They can't see good, or they can't see. They're blind. They can't hear good, or their hearing is gone, or, you know, so we need Braille, and we need closed captions, and this is very, very in-depth. But all I will say, people, I'm going to wrap this up now. All I will say is get online to OfReg page on Facebook and Instagram. I'm trying to get back onto their page here because I'm on it. It is really weird, because I'm trying to see where they have the information that you can. They had an email here at one point where you can send your let me go back to see if it's at the front of the document. See, they have extended this at one point. Let me see what it is at the bottom of the document where you can send. But the easiest way to do this is to just go on their websites. If you have complaints, go on their social media page. And this is just, I don't see here again where they have, where you can send your complaints. But if you have ever had any problems with any of these companies at all, with anything to do with CUC, Water Authority, Cayman Water Company, Flow, Digicel, Logic, C3, what are the other companies on island that provide these services? I can't remember. If you've ever had more than one or more than one issue with these companies, whatever they are, go on OfReg page and say yes to the regulation proposal. Just yes. And let them see how many people are in agreement. Let me tell you, as a learned person, I have read the whole document, I'm not going to lie, but I've scanned it briefly, and I can tell you this is groundbreaking proposal for this market. Groundbreaking. It is time. And for you have been crying. I am in the Eastern District and I have to drive all the way to West Bay Road, right? To my phone company, you guys know who that is, that's on West Bay Road, to find out about billing, to get tech support. Their WhatsApp doesn't work, their phone numbers doesn't work, and if it does work on the rare occasion, it's in another country who doesn't know what's going on in the Cayman Islands. There's another company that provides a formal utility. You can't go to their office in Georgetown anymore to query your bills, to do nothing. You have to go all the way down to West Bay Road, and you're in the Eastern Districts. Now, in the Eastern Districts and the outer districts, they provide where you can pay your utility at outlets, but those places cannot help you with your bills. They don't have a toll-free number. They don't have a WhatsApp number that the general public who cannot reach to West Bay Road in person, who may not want to travel by bus or have anyone to drive them there, can get in touch with them and discuss their bills. It is getting out of hand. So I am going to tell you again, right? Share the link in the chat. Okay, I will share the link, but the link is ofreg.ky/consultations. And it's the second document The second document, when you get into ofreg.ky/consultations, I will share it in the chat once I get off. It is a lengthy document, like I said, 67 pages, but it's worded very simple. Again, I say I don't know why they extended. I'm glad that they extended it, but I don't know why they only extended it till the 22nd. It should have been till the end of this month, or to tomorrow at least, you know. My tablet will not move, so that means it probably doesn't want me to talk about this anymore. And while I'm on it, I just want to say this. People have approached me about talking about the ministers choosing certain programs, media programs, to go on and talk about things. And I have done some poking around, searching around, requests and that sort of thing, trying to find out. And apparently there's nothing in the regulation, nothing anywhere that I've found. And if someone has known something, no one at government offices knows anything to tell me. But apparently there's nothing that obliges our parliamentarians to even have to say anything about anything that goes on in their department that they're working on, really. They have to let the public be open to the parliamentary sessions and hear what they say. They're disclosing to the public through newsletters and their websites and their social media pages. They all, just about all government agencies and departments now have a media person. I mean, just about all. An exclusive media person to handle the media and the release of information. So when our parliamentarians, whether on the sitting government or the opposition, decides that they're going to go on talk shows or radio shows or media shows or whatever, that's only, from what my understanding is and what I've found, that's only something that they do out of the goodness of presenting themselves to the public. They don't have to do it. And they don't have to go on any particular station or media source. And I'm not picking on anyone, it's just that people have been asking me if there's anything, if I know if there's anything about it. And so I can't find anything. No one can tell me or show me anything that says, yes, they are required to go on some platforms. It's just becoming common practice, I think, with the way that the world is moving. And some ministers don't mind doing it. Some ministers are not cut out for that. I know one minister, not just an MP, but I know one minister right now in the government that when his first term came around, when he was first in, he was very shy. He barely was able to speak. And now he is online and everything. And I think he had a ministry briefly towards the end of the last administration, but he's now here, there, and everywhere, and smiling and before the camera, and so we need to give these parliamentarians some slack. They have their individual personality despite being public servants, and I do believe they're fulfilling their purpose in making sure that information gets out, the opposition and the sitting government. That's my belief, and I'm monitoring it online many times. And so they have the right to choose which platform they want to go on and speak. And there's so much free platforms that, and like I said, they're constantly releasing information to their social media pages, because many of these parliamentarians, they have their private pages and they have their professional pages, and they release information on both. They also have WhatsApp profiles that they release a lot of information on. And so some of us that may be used to one platform can jump on other platforms too, because what I will say, every single platform has something to offer uniquely. Every platform. I don't want to call names here. Some are professional media sources that are known in the community for decades, right? Some are platforms that are called bloggers, or what you call, I can't remember the other word, but they're people that are known in the community to be doing these things for years also, right? And not because you're used to one platform, you can't go over to another platform to find information that you think should be readily available. Because some things that are available on those other platforms that you think should come over to this platform are not available on this platform, and vice versa. So you have to check in with all the platforms to see if you missed anything and get access to the information you think you need, because the information isn't being withheld. And we have people that know the information, but they're not willing to publicly divulge it or put it into context for the public. Sometimes they don't have the time. Sometimes they just don't want to. Sometimes they are hoping that they can have guests on their platforms to do so. And so I will say this, the parliamentarians, from what I have found in my research, are not obligated to come and personally do anything on these platforms that are news sources. My understanding, and I'm being very careful with my wording, is that through the government channels, and that includes the government YouTube channel, the government CIA, government TV channel, and Radio Cayman by extension, because that is the government radio station, are really the only mandatory sources that you can say they're obligated to use. But if they go on the other radio stations, the other news channels, the other TV stations, whatever they're all called, newspapers, it's because they have taken the initiative to do so. And so we should be appreciative. And if we don't see it on one channel, we find it on another channel, because there's so much different sources around that it's out there somewhere. Okay? And so I will leave you guys with that. OfReg, I would have loved to have put everything on. I'm going about an hour now, I think, with this live. And of course, I'm sure people will see that I'm doing it, but they won't chime in, because it seems the people in this country just loves to complain. I'm going to be real. They rather get onto social media and complain, or WhatsApp and get into these groups and complain, and the minute that, you know, something is being done to assist them, they're not availing themselves of it. And they have to realize that putting these things in place takes a lot of paper space in order to get the wording right, legally and professionally. So they may say 67 pages is long, but it's really not. So guys, I leave you with that. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'll leave the link in the chat.